Good evening, friends. Good evening, Vinod ji.
Very good evening, Rajesh ji. We are back with a very interesting discussion today.
Yes, in this episode of Through Literary Lens, we are going to take up a world famous poem of a world famous author who wrote in Punjabi.
Who is he, Rajesh ji?
He is none other than Birhada Sultan Shivkumar Bhatalvi.
The prince of Punjabi poetry, Shivkumar Bhatalvi. I am
Yes.
sure many of you must have heard his name. If not, you must not miss his name. Rather, you must not miss his poems as well.
Once you engage with his poetry, it is impossible for you to put him aside for the lifetime.
Before coming to his famous poem,
Mainu, vida, karo,
karo,
which is the name of his collection also.
his life is interesting in many ways. Born in 1936,
Six.
he died at the age of 36 only. In this way, he is comparable to Lord Byron, who also passed away at the same age of 36.
Yeah, so Keats and Shelley and Byron, trinity of English literature, who passed away young. So we have here Shivkumar Bhatalvi.
Thematically, Shivkumar Bhatalvi comes very close to John Keats, so far as the expression of separation, melancholy, love and longing are concerned.
Definitely. He is the youngest recipient of Sahitya Akademi Award.
Yes, this is really interesting. Sahitya Akademi Award is considered to be the most significant award given by the government of India to the poets of various languages, writers of various languages each year.
Yes. The themes running through his poetry and the sheer musicality, lyricality of them, they're really the poignancy of those poems.
Rajesh Shivkumar Bhatalvi got this coveted Sahitya Akademi Award at the age of 30 in 1967,
yes.
being the youngest person so far to get this award.
Yes. So
This speaks volumes of the greatness and appeal of his poetry.
correct, because as they say, the sweetest are the songs, saddest songs.
Sweetest songs are those that tell of the saddest thought.
We look before and after and pine for what is not.
P.B. Shelley.
P.B. Shelley. So this-
Shivkumar was born, of course, in undivided India, in a village which is now is a part of Pakistan. So the first great separation and anguish that he had to undergo was the partition of the country.
And he must have been 11 or 12 at that time.
You know, the
impressionable
partition,
mind.
especially those who are aware of the partition, it was one of the greatest tragedies of the human history, where the people, for no fault of them, had to leave their native ancestral lands.
Yes.
And that pain of separation, those who have suffered and those who have not suffered but still belong to those families, continue to feel.
Yes. And only of late we have started, marking the partition day, of 14th August. That's the very late initiative. But the pain of those who underwent the partition, like Mr. Shivkumar Bhatalvi, and it resonates in his poetry. His entire poetry is said to be of love and longing and sorrow and separation from the beloved. But yes, partition has played no less a role in that. It is metamorphosized.
Yes, because partition or the separation of anything or from anybody
Yes.
creates pain. And human life, I would like to take this liberty to say, is condemned that each time we are continuously suffering loss. Loss is something which is a reality of life, and that loss really takes a lyrical, melancholic expression at the hands of this genius who is Shivkumar Bhatalvi.
And in this poem, Vinodji, Mainu, vida, karo,
It's a very small poem.
small poem of only 3 stanzas, but the kind of loss he depicts in this poem is not only the loss of the loved ones, the separation which he in a way wallows in that pangs of separation, but he appeals to the Lord, to the God.
This poem is addressed
You just let me
to God.
be different, let me separate from you as well. He tells the God, don't hold my hand so tightly.
Mainu vida karo mere Ram.
The first line itself, Mainu vida karo
O
mere
Lord,
Ram.
O La Ram, please bid me farewell, let me go, right? And why? Because he says, I have suffered irreparable loss. And that loss, loss, especially of separation, right? And he says, circle my head with pain.
Pain. Yeah.
With the sacred
put
tears.
the separation on my palm and give me tears.
And these are sacred tears.
Sacred tears.
And
sacred water of tears.
Then the water of these sacred tears, he says, O Lord, distribute it among all the lovers.
All the lovers in the world. And if some drops still remain, gulp it yourself.
No, this kind of confidence,
Yeah.
rather audacity, that
Yeah.
if some drop of those secret tears is left, then gulp yourself.
No, these are very, very deep lines, Vinod.
Yes.
Very deep lines. He addresses the God, call it Ram or whatever, the creative force may be. The tears are sacred. They arise out of the wells of separation, pain, longing, yearning. And then that water not only has to be distributed to all the human beings who love, but the God also needs that water.
Perhaps he tries to convey that God may not have experienced the pangs of separation.
Yes.
He may not have suffered separation. He may not have suffered anguish and agony that has come to the lot of human beings.
So the God should know, should experience the pain, the pangs of separation, and then only perhaps the creative process can reach its fruition.
Yes, because you have never seen God cry.
Yeah.
Whatever images you have seen,
Yeah.
you have not seen God cry.
Crying.
Because human beings are condemned to cry and weep because they suffer loss. They suffer separation. And that is why symbolically Shivkumar Bhatalvi asks the God that at least one drop of that sacred water you drink yourself so that you can have the taste of agony, taste of loss, taste of sorrow.
So that is required. Even for the fundamental creative force also, it is required. And here God is not of any religion, mind it. Even though
It's
Ram,
a nature, perhaps.
It's nature, perhaps. So nature also should know the pangs of separation.
Because nature is indifferent to the suffering of mankind.
Yeah. It's totally indifferent.
Yes. And in the last stanza, he says, my mother died when I was
before
very
that also,
small.
Vinod, he says, at the time of farewell, O God, let us admit the truth.
Yeah, let us declare the
Let
truth.
us declare the truth. That we give away pearls and then only we get the separation.
So separation does not come free to us.
Yes.
When we suffer losses, when something that we love is lost, that gives rise to that separation which continues to linger in our heart and mind forever.
So that kind of precious separation, he says, that is very precious because शोला गम के भड़कने का कोई रंज नहीं, जिंदगी आग में जल जल के निखर जाएगी. या फिर another the lines come to my mind, Vinod ji, is a very famous filmy song.
Yes.
कि मालिक ने बनाया इंसान को, इंसान मोहब्बत कर बैठा,
जी.
वो ऊपर बैठा क्या जाने इंसानों पे क्या गुजरी है.
Right. See,
So-
God has created love. God has created human beings and human beings have fallen in love. And the God who sits up in the heavens perhaps is unaware of the condition of mankind.
How does he know that what has befallen human beings?
Yes.
The pangs of separation, the sorrow. So Shivkumar Bhatalvi dwells deep into this, but at the same time, he yearns for separation from God as well.
Now, Rajesh, here I am able to decipher
Yeah.
a very important element in his poem.
Yeah.
His separation is not imaginary.
Yes.
His separation arises out of the real losses.
Yeah.
He lost both of his parents in the childhood,
Yeah.
and when he was young, he lost his beloved.
Yeah.
So he suffers the pangs of unrecruited love as well.
Yeah,
and
loss
therefore
and-
his
yeah.
separation is real.
Real separation, and therefore he welcomes separation or wallows in it, but he yearns for the ultimate separation. That is the separation from God itself.
It is here that he becomes different from other poets, from other human beings. When other human beings suffer loss, when other human beings suffer that their beloved, their near and dear ones are separated from them, they simply come back to God.
Yeah.
They surrender themselves to God and they try to find solace in seeking love and mercy of God.
God.
Even Ravindranath Tagore, who
Yeah.
had suffered lot many deaths
Yes.
in his family, right? Finally, he also comes back to Lord, and he believes that the death is not the end of the life,
Yes.
and he hopes that he is going to live life gloriously in the next world.
And he derives solace from it, but not Shivkumar.
Yes.
Not Shivkumar. He says, "Many mitti de mukut karo."
Meri beti tu mukut
Mukut
karo.
karo.
Let me
Oh.
get liberated from this
Liberated.
clay. So
And-
this is important. His thoughts, his poetry is well rooted in the reality of the earth.
Yes.
He is not the poet who simply speaks of the other world and finds solace in the imaginary pleasure that one is expected to get there after death. But he is very much here. He is very much concerned with the pains and sufferings of this world itself.
And Vinod, many a times, I feel many a times many critics do not underline this theme of many poets who speak, so to say, against God.
Yeah,
this is
because,
tabooed, you know.
Yeah, Rajesh,
It's taboo.
I have been trying to
Yeah.
develop one critical approach which is
Yeah.
known as theocriticism.
Theocriticism, yeah.
So whenever you read any piece of literature, you must try to understand its theological position.
Yes.
Whether the writer or the poet is for the God, against the God, or indifferent in the
Indifferent.
divine matters. So that also has to be established, because that is one of the ways of interpreting and understanding the literary works. Because literary work cannot be indifferent. Whatever your opinions are, whatever your belief system is, it is bound to be reflected in the creative thing that one comes up.
Yeah. And here the prayer itself, I call it prayer, Mainu, vida, karo, mere Ram. He is asking the Lord to bid him farewell.
No,
Yes.
Rajesh ji,
Yeah.
if you go deeper,
Yeah.
don't you think that is paradox in itself?
Yeah, definitely.
On the one hand, he does not believe in God.
Yeah.
And he asks the God to drink the sacred
Yeah.
water of the tears so that he
Yes.
can understand what is the separation is. But at the same time, he says, "Mainu vida karo, my Lord."
See, Vinodji, I take it to mean that the concept of God, the imagination of God, which has haunted humankind for millennia now, he wants to get rid of that imagination which says that God is a good, omnipotent designer, God.
Exactly.
He
But
wants
at the
to
same
get rid.
time, he appeals to some supreme power which has command over his life and death, and that is why he says, liberate me from this clay of body."
Yeah, he is naturally, he is also trapped in that imagination, or maybe the nature. He is appealing to the nature.
Because
perhaps.
whatever we may do,
Yeah.
whatever science may
Yeah.
achieve,
Yeah.
after all, the incidents of death and birth, they are
Yeah.
not in our hands.
We
Like-
come from nature and we go to nature.
So something is there which is controlling, whether it is understandable or not. That's
No.
a different story altogether.
Yeah. But he appeals to that named or unnamed forces, understood or not understood forces, that after enduring so much separation, now let me be separate from you. And he tells them that you also please experience this pain, these pangs of separation, so that this indifferent nature or indifferent process of creation is enlivened and may be humanized.
Exactly. So he wants to impart human touch to everything, including God. Because if the God is considered to be the creator, then in the first place he must be humanized.
Yeah.
And then, if you read original Punjabi poem,
the
it
lyrical.
is really lyrical.
Lyrical, and many
And
people have sung it also.
It is a deep expression of melancholy. And if you read with attention,
Yeah.
tears simply roll down in your eyes.
Definitely.
Because melancholy is a reality for all of us.
Yeah. And it is compounded by the fact that he died so young.
Yeah, he died so young. So why people who die young, why they should suffer for no fault of them? If the life is the result of our karmas, does it mean that they have committed karmas that they have to die young? Again, all these things put a
irony.
question mark.
Yeah, they put a question mark. They challenge our understanding. They challenge our sensibility. Vinodji Coleridge said
Yes.
that swans sing before they die.
Yeah.
So it were a no bad thing should certain people die before they sing. But fortunately, Shivkumar sang before he died. Maybe he was a swan, like, you know.
See, my philosophical question is,
Yeah.
why much of sorrow is causeless in this world.
Yeah, definitely. It is much of the sorrow, if you analyze, is without any known or definite cause.
So this brings us to very sad realization.
And
that-
forget, here I would like to just not only challenge but dismiss those people who say that sorrow is sorrow because you think it is sorrow, otherwise it's not sorrow. I mean, those people I would not really like to, I can't argue with
Of course,
them.
perception plays
Yeah.
its own role.
No,
right? It may
definitely.
deepen the sense of
It-
sorrow.
definitely,
But there are
but-
certain problems
Yeah.
which are real.
Yeah.
For example, death of a mother in childhood,
That's
death of
real.
a beloved
Yeah.
when you are young, right?
Yeah.
And death of a friend,
Right.
and simply financial ruin,
Financial ruin, poverty, dire poverty, exploitation, rape, murder.
So these are the real sorrows. They are not imaginary sorrows. Because even if you alter your perception, you cannot do away with the pain.
Because it's futile to argue that you should simply get rid of them. No, one can't get rid of. One has to work through them. One has to come to terms, or one has to have objective correlatives, or one has to get out of their impact.
And
in a
again,
meaningful
Shivkumar
way.
Bhatalvi does not seek any solace.
No.
He does not seek any liberation from sorrow.
No.
Rather, he wants to even give up God. He wants to give up everything.
Maybe he's hinting at the fact that once we give up God, then only we can meaningfully combat sorrow in a humanitarian way.
Because
Perhaps.
now we even are not ready to accept the responsibility of sorrow.
No, it's God's fault. God may have willed it like this.
Yes. So when we are not able to confront whether it is happiness or sorrow, see, we are shrinking from the responsibility.
Yes.
So in a way, here, if you come to this existential philosophy, so assuming responsibility is one of the important elements of the existential philosophical approach to life.
And getting rid of the otherworldly causes or otherworldly so-called entities responsible for our state here, that is the primary thing one can do.
You can understand the stature of Shivkumar Bhatalvi. This is a small poem can evoke such a long discussion, critical discussion. There are so many aspects hidden still in this small poem.
Yes,
The
yes.
more you read, the more you get surprised with
And
the
I'm
complexity.
surprised, Vinodji, why we don't get the Nobel Prize. We means like people like Shivkumar Bhatalvi.
Yes, why not?
others
There
of
are
India.
many.
Yeah.
Right? Unfortunately, one of the reasons is they are perhaps not authentically translated into English and other world languages. And see, we are not able to market our things. We are lacking in marketing, right?
It's
Western-
like, for Oscars, whenever our films are nominated, they are
Yes.
simply turned down. Like Sahab Bibi and Ghulam was turned out saying that no, drinking by a heroine is not palatable. And then Lagan was nominated, it was no, just turned down like this.
And again, see, literature is the vehicle of culture.
And now Dapata Ladies has been nominated.
Yeah, perhaps the people who sit in the jury, right, whether
Yeah.
it's a Nobel Prize or other such international awards, they perhaps are not able to understand and appreciate the various shades of Eastern cultures.
Yes.
Perhaps this is a very important, reason
Reason.
why our writers and poets, except Rabindranath Tagore, has not been honored with that Nobel Prize.
Yes.
So-
They perhaps they can't get out of the monotheist and monotheistic certainties, I would call them.
Because you require, the philosophical and cultural attitude to understand any literary work.
Yeah, the polytheistic fragilities have to be, understood.
They have to be
and
open-minded and flexible to accept the various, shades of the different cultures. Because any good piece of writing, is nurtured and it arises in the cultural context.
Yes. So definitely enjoy this poem. Think about it. Feel it. I would say. And
Read Shivkumar Bhatalvi.
And do let us know how do you feel about our discussions.
We'll be back very soon with some other discussion. Till that time, take care.
Thank you.